Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 85 of the Self-Publishing Roundtable, the podcast for indie authors by indie authors, where we discuss today's topics and issues that matter to the business of the self-published author. I am your moderator, Wade Finnegan. My co-panelists are Xavier Granville. Say hello, Xavier.
Hello, Internet.
And Michelle could not make it tonight, so yeah. Well, that may be by, David's hands. But anyway, our special panelist for this evening is one and only David Wright.
Hello.
Hello, world.
There is another David Wright.
Yeah, there is. David W. Wright. I should put the W in there.
A Mets baseball player who's just a little bit more famous than me.
Yeah, slightly. But you're catching up. So.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I
slightly better looking.
Yeah, there you go. I feel like you don't really need an introduction, but just in case there's somebody out there listening, watching that hasn't heard of you, David is the very... What's that?
That's a lucky person.
Well, it could be, it's true. But a very accomplished author. He has co-written such greats as Yesterday's Gone, White Space, Crash, a multitude of others. He is also one half of Collective Inkwell with partner Shawn Platt. He is also a big part of the publishing company trio of Sterling and Stone. He's even had a hand in this podcast at one time, but he's probably not admitting to that. So he is more known for his role on the self-publishing podcast, the one that kind of started it all. And plus he is, even though despite popular belief, a good guy who deserves more credit for his creative talents. So that's why we brought him on. You
forgot the show I'm most known for.
Well, yeah, but I thought I wasn't supposed to mention that. I always heard you're not supposed to.
No, not that one. Better Off Undead.
Of course, that's the one.
That one, yes.
No, not the 700 Club that I used to be on.
Okay, I thought that was not. Yeah, I couldn't touch.
I thought that was the other David Wright.
May have been. So yeah, Better Off Undead if you really want to have your stomach turn once in a while and laugh your ass off. It's a great show. I am a regular viewer of that as well. I don't know if I should admit that.
Oh, you're admitting this.
Yeah, I know it's bad, but
it's out there now.
It is. Xavier, we got a little thing going on right now with a short story contest. Why don't you tell our viewers about that so we get more entries?
Yeah, sure. We've got a couple submissions already, but basically submit any length of a short story. We're looking usually somewhere between 500, 2,000 words. Flash fiction, short story, something in that range. No genres restricted. Obviously, if it's going to be erotic, I try to keep it somewhat tame, not too ridiculous.
No dragons?
They better be cool dragons.
Okay. Bigfoot. Anyway.
Yeah. Make those dragons somewhat classy while they're doing their naughty things. Okay. Yes. But otherwise, yeah, there's no real restrictions other than the fact that it has to be submitted by March 31st. The winners of the contest will get a free cover design done by yours truly, myself, and the 1,000 Creative Writing Prompts book by Brian Cohen. So you can get a free cover design and some inspiration for perhaps your next project. So if you send a short story by the 31st to theideapool@gmail.com, you might have the chance of getting that free cover and that free book.
Yeah, awesome deal. So send them in, people. Send them in. I think David, since David's not officially a member of the show anymore, he could actually be eligible if he wants. Of course, he doesn't have any spare time, but.
I'm actually writing a short story this week, but
nice.
it's already promised. But I'm really wanting to write more short stories.
Cool. Mm-hmm. It is one thing.
But yeah.
Yeah, it is good practice, if anything.
True. Just a quick reminder to everybody watching, please give us a thumbs up, share, review on iTunes would be really nice. Any of those things, if you guys would be willing to take a moment. All the social media shares help us to keep the show viable. So please, spread the love. Spread the love, if you will.
Don't review this episode, though.
Well, we haven't really started yet, Dave. So maybe this will be a,
Okay.
Nah, never mind. But
He's already gone there. It's a train wreck. We're going down and burning.
You don't have Michelle to keep you in line, so we're fine.
That's true. This is true. I gotta be careful.
Love the
I'll try to
idea
keep
of Michelle
mine.
keeping people in line. That just doesn't make sense to me. You guys, I think you might be a little out of
voice of reason.
No, she's the voice of giggling. She makes us feel that we are actually funny.
Okay, that's why I used to hang around drunks and stoners all throughout high school, because it made me a lot funnier.
Yep. It works.
Sober people don't laugh at me. And Wade's laughing now. Okay,
I am.
Proving my point.
I am on vacation from my day job this week, so maybe that's
all right.
A little spring break time. Yeah. So. All right, I'll try to keep it serious. I have a couple of questions in the queue. Xavier, you mind if I start tonight?
You go right ahead.
All right, picking Dave's brain. I want to talk to you because one of the things that I think happens a lot on SPP is you get a lot of stuff through the filter of Shawn, and then if it's not Shawn, it's Johnny. Then finally we get a little glimpse or a little filter from Dave, and so you're the spotlight tonight, as you will. I wanted to start off with your transition to being a full-time author. How you came about that decision, when to do that, and because, like I say, I not just on Shawn. I mean, he's just all rainbows and unicorns, and I think I would be so stressed out making that transition. I wanted to kind of hear how you dealt with that and what sort of things you set up to get yourself ready for that.
Okay, here's a story that not many people know, and this is it's one of the cool things about Shawn. Shawn and I met in 2008. I told that story before, so I won't go into the details here. But we met, and after a while we started working together, and we found freelance work, consulting for companies. I did some design stuff, I did some illustrations, I did some copywriting, a little bit of everything. And there was a point where we were getting a lot of work, and it was taking off in a big way, and we had some, big clients. It was great. And at about the same time, Kindle was happening, because we had written a little bit before. We'd written fiction back in 2008. Actually, we wrote our Available Darkness book and put it on the web to pretty much nothing, because nobody wants to read, or at least none of our readers wanted to read on the web. They all basically said, hey, when is a book going to come out? I'm not reading this on a website. So we had a few readers, but nothing that really motivated us. So we decided, when the Kindle happened, and basically we realized we could do this. We could put our books out there and find an audience. And we did it. In the first few months, we didn't sell a lot. And what happened was, Shawn, we were working, and we were doing two jobs. We were doing freelance and writing at the same time. And we realized that if we were going to do this full time, that we would have to cut the freelance stuff out. So we said, okay. Shawn decided, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to help fund you while we're doing this. So I would do, a bulk of the writing up front, and he would edit, and we'd get going that way. And he basically supported me for the first few months before, we really, took off in a big enough way that we could support ourselves. And for that, I mean, that is damned awesome of Shawn to do. To just put it out there and say, we're going to make this happen. Because if he hadn't done that, I would have been afraid to have gone it and done that. And I think if we didn't do it when we did, if we delayed, we might not have hit at the right time, and we might not have gotten attention that we got. I mean, we happened to be right place, right time sort of thing, and we were among the firsts that I know of anyway. I'm sure there were some before us, but we were among the first to really do serials the way we do them, and do them every single week. I mean, that took a lot of time, and we would never have been able to do it if Shawn had not stepped up and done that. And that's fucking awesome.
That is. That's incredible. I didn't. Okay. Wow. So that, because I remember I was following Shawn through the freelance stuff, because that's how I kind of got started. 'Cause I was freelancing for a while too, just writing articles and things, and I had actually stumbled on Shawn through, I think, Carol Tice's blog a long time ago, and I remember when you guys were doing the Available Darkness, because I saw it a little bit and stuff, and then
you were the one reading.
Well, I mean, yeah, and then
when's it going to be in a book, you bastard?
Well, at the time I didn't think, oh, fiction, I can't do fiction. I was like, thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to teach and then write articles on gutter maintenance and things like that I was doing. So, but yeah, that's really
cool. Your gutters.
You do need to maintain your gutters. You do.
I've heard leaves are a problem.
Well, maybe not where Dave lives very much, but maybe. I don't know. Is there leaves down there? I suppose there are a few trees with leaves.
You have to have somewhere to bury the bodies.
Oh, that's true. Think about that. Oh, that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. That's amazing that Shawn did that. It's because I always thought it was just like, man, I can't believe Dave. They convinced Dave that he can still pay his bills, and so I could just see you in there fretting, going, "How am I going to pay my bills?" So
now the scary moment was when we started selling books, and basically Shawn's like, okay, now we're at a point that we both have to be hitting this full cylinder if we really want to take off. So at that point, he had to start turning down freelance work. And once you get to a point where you're getting good freelance work, I mean, you fight so hard to get to that point where you're actually well enough known and you're getting paid top dollar, and to suddenly say, no, we're going to do fiction only, that was scary. And yeah, I'm happy things turned out the way they did. But Shawn's a far braver man than I am. So
more entrepreneurial than you are.
Yes, he is, and I think that helps a lot, because when I see things, like, I think, what's wrong with this? How can this fall apart? Shawn thinks, what's wrong with this? How can we make it right? And I think that's very important. But he doesn't always see what's wrong with something, like, instantly. Like, if there's, like, a problem, like, that can be foreseen or something, he doesn't always see it, which is why it's good that we kind of, mix together, because I think you need a balance of both. And hopefully I don't hold him back. He'd probably be like a zillionaire right now if it weren't for me. But yeah.
I think you're doing all right, David. So, yeah, it's okay. Xavier, you want to go next, or you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So I guess since you and Shawn really started with the kind of KDP explosion, and you kind of saw that first wave of things. You've changed. You did short story collections. You switched to full length novels. Like, there's been a lot of different iterations, I guess, of how you guys go about putting out books. Can you, I guess, talk about that? Like, how has that transition been going from serials to full books to doing these kind of live collaborative novel event things? How has that kind of been like for you as an author, going through all those different writing technique or format changes, really?
We started with the serials. It was fun because I was a huge fan of serials, like, all my life. I mean, even soap operas. I got no shame in admitting that. I love serials in almost all of their forms. If it says "to be continued" at the end of it, I'm a sucker for it. So when we were doing serials early on, it was great. And at the time, KDP really helped, and places like Pixel of Ink would feature, like, just serialized episode way back then. And other websites, would help promote, like, the smaller books that they don't do now. So it's a lot harder right now to start with serials, I think. I don't know if that'll always be the case. I think, there will be some way, like right now, I think the KDP Select, some people are finding more success with shorter work now. So I think it kind of ebbs and flows. So you got to kind of ebb and flow with it, I think. As far as doing standalone books, we'd always wanted to write standalone books. It was just a matter. We had 6 serials going. We had to commit to 47 North for the 2 series, so it was kind of hard to fit them in. And we just did our first 2 last year, and we got another one that we just are wrapping up right now. And short stories were kind of to fill the holes between the episodes or between seasons of stuff that we did in the first year. When we did every week, we released either an episode of our seasons or a short story back in 2012. So short stories were kind of to fill those gaps because, between Yesterday's Gone and White Space, we had to have like a couple weeks to get a little further ahead on White Space before we put it out. So yeah, that was kind of just something to fill the gaps, but something we also enjoyed because there's an experimentation there, and I've always loved short stories, and like I said early on, right now we're getting back into it, and I love the format. I love experimenting, and I think I love most of all that I don't have to remember all the continuity as we do for the the 6 seasons we've got. It's very hard to keep up with shit.
Yeah, especially now that you've gotten that far along with Yesterday's Gone. I can only imagine that 6 seasons now. So.
Yeah, that's a beast because, small spoiler alert, there's basically 2 different worlds with Yesterday's Gone and different timelines and different characters going on. And yeah, that was a real fucker to try and get right.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Having gone through all those different trial and error, see what works and whatnot, how much of your writing habits have had to change to adopt to these different things, going from serial to full length to short stories? Like, how much of your writing process changes as the projects do?
I don't know how much has changed. We kind of go with what works from project to project, whether it's me writing the entire first draft or each of us taking like part of a rough draft, and then it goes through both of us a few times before it ever goes to our editor. Though, as far as me personally, I still write about the same amount. We scaled it back a little bit like last year, so now I'm hitting maybe 10,000 words a week, which is probably a little bit less than I was doing, but I needed to slow down just for my own sanity because, writing 60 hours a week, sometimes 70 hours a week can be a little maddening because, you got the 10,000 words, but then you have the editing on top of that and all the other stuff that goes into writing.
Do you still primarily write at night, Dave?
I write whenever I'm up. So if I'm up in the day, I'm writing during the day. If I'm up at night, I'm up at night. So my schedule's kind of affected by other things other than my own.
Got the darn family.
Yeah. So when I have obligations, it kind of changes things around for a little while. Gotcha.
So how far out do you guys do your editorial calendar? Because I know Shawn's a pretty big planner. Like, do you have all your everything you're going to write for the whole year laid out?
In the beginning of every year, Shawn plans out what we're going to write for the year, and then I pretty much ignore it.
Doesn't that sound exciting?
I am the worst person to plan with because I'm very much I'm in the moment. I really need to be into the story I'm writing, and also like what I want to do now might not be what I want to do a year from now. So there's a few things we haven't gotten back to yet, and some of that's been, other commitments we have, like with 47 North and stuff like that. And some of it's monetary, like a book that doesn't do well in its first season. You're going to wait a little while to do the second season when you can more financially afford to do so, like when another book is kind of helping you stay afloat. Otherwise, like if you put out 2 books that don't sell in a row, you're going to have some lean months, and that's difficult. So we kind of try and balance the successes with the risks or the more riskier books. But in the end, if we start something, we're going to finish it, and we pretty much write what we want. We've never written to market yet, so that's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point about balancing out. I didn't think about that. So like, is that maybe like White Space kind of got put on the back burner because of other things like Yesterday's Gone that was a bigger seller?
I don't know if it was White Space that got pushed back. For Nevermore, it's been pushed back several times, simply because that book did not sell as well in its first run. It started to find more of an audience, though, since then. So it might be now at a point where, if we do put it out, it might do okay. I think it's a very good book for what it is. I think we just completely screwed up marketing it.
Do you track much? Do you look at sales on a regular basis, or do you not worry about that? Or
I used to all the time. Now I barely look at all, simply because it's too defeating. If you're doing well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's good, but it doesn't really matter because you still have to write. You still have to show up, and you don't want to think you're doing too well and like just get lazy. And if you're doing bad, if you're having slow months, I mean, every now and then I'll look just to make sure money's coming in. But if you're having slow months or the book's not doing as well as you want, then it kind of gets in your head and you think, well, fuck, maybe I should change what I'm writing, or maybe I should write this other book. So I don't look at it as much as I used to.
that's probably good advice all the way around, right?
I think it depends. Like if you're needing every book to do well, if you're not if you don't have some like hits to kind of carry you over for a little while, you might need to be a little more strategic in how you do it. If your book isn't doing well, then like for instance, if I wasn't paying attention, like right now, say we did for Nevermore right now and it bombed and we weren't paying attention, we said, all right, let's write 2. There's a ton of people waiting for it, and that wasn't the case, and we'd be kind of screwed. So I think you kind of have to pay attention. If you have some books that are doing really well, though, and then you could, feel free to experiment. But I think it really matters to each person. I think it's an individual thing, and what they financially can and can't do at the moment.
That's a good point. Do you pay, out of the 3 of you, how does one concentrate more on marketing, or do you all do you have marketing meetings? I know you have story meetings. I mean, I've heard you guys talk a lot about those, but do you guys talk a lot about marketing and how to market, or how's that work?
More so lately than we used to just write, and every now and then we'd get a little marketing bug up our ass. Hey, we ought to do this, and kind of half-ass plan it and maybe do it, and then things would shift and we're like, okay, well, fuck that, we're just gonna get back to writing. Right now we're being a little more strategic, and I think that's a good thing, because I've seen people that have just written a few books and they've somehow, with marketing alone, can survive on those few books for a good long time. And I'm talking about using BookBub ads, stuff like that. If you can market strategically, and you really aren't afraid to market, and you know what you're doing, you can do really well on lesser books. I think, honestly, if I'm looking at what we've done, we've been kind of stupid to ignore marketing for so long. I mean, we just, like I said, we wrote to our hearts. Shawn and Johnny wrote what they wanted to write for the past however long it's been that they've been writing together. They didn't write for market. They wrote what they wanted to write. I think if we had specifically written to market and focused more on advertising and stuff like that, the books would even do better than they do. So I think we're trying to do a little smarter now and kind of really, blend, because we all know what to do. We just don't always do it, and I think that's true for a lot of people in a lot of areas.
Yeah, I use that analogy a lot with, I've been trying to do exercise, trying again.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I know what I'm supposed to do. It's getting my ass off the couch to do it.
Yes, exactly. And I know I have a reputation on the podcast for being the anti-marketing person. I actually can appreciate marketing that's done well. Marketing with integrity and using advertising to find your audience, and I can appreciate all of that. I'm fascinated by how it works and how different people do it in different ways. I think is all very interesting. I'm not very good at it, I don't think, because I feel, I don't know, I'm a shy person when I talk to other people, and it's hard for me to put myself out there like that. Being on the podcast is, I'm kind of fighting against my own nature on that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Xavier.
Yeah, so we got a couple of questions from the audience. Carl had asked, can you explain, Dave, how you feel a short story needs to be structured? What makes a good one?
Carl has stumped me. I don't know. I write the short story I want to write. I don't think too much about structure. I think I have it down intuitively, just from having read a zillion of them and knowing how to write them. I think I'm pretty good at it. I don't know. I structure. It's different than a book, obviously. You can't spend as much time burrowing down into like minutia. You don't want to introduce too many, characters. You kind of want to keep it simpler, in my experience, anyway. There might be other people who do it different. So I don't know. I'm the wrong person to ask that.
When you're writing by yourself versus writing with Shawn or whatever, do you still plot a lot and do story beats and all that, or do you wing it more intuitively?
I wing it more even when we do beats. So
basically, okay. Well, basically, if I get this right, Shawn plans things out, you ignore it.
Holy shit, all over. No. I think I am a cross between a plotter and a pantser. I like to think things out. I think I'm very strategic that way with our stories. But once I'm actually writing the story, whether we've had story meetings and we've kind of beat it out, or we just had story meetings, we know general direction to go. If I'm writing the first draft on something, or if I'm writing like one of the Dark Crossing stories, and I'm writing the first draft, if it's my turn to do it, I might rough beats, but then I'm going to find my own way. When I'm in the story, I find my way. When I'm in my story or our stories, I get into the characters' heads. It's a lot like when I was younger and I'd play with like Star Wars characters and stuff. Like I can imagine what I want to do, but once I'm actually like in the book and stuff, and I'm thinking differently. I'm thinking like these characters. I'm thinking how what they're doing will cause ripples and how those ripples will come back and what other characters will do. And there's things I can't really foresee when I'm in the story meeting process. So I kind of find the story as I go.
Yeah, and I think especially when it comes to dialogue writing, like you can plan scenes and you can know how scenes are going to go, but there's things that you will say and things your character will say, and they're not always going to agree. And it's the same, just coming down to little syntax things of how you speak. That may not be how the character speaks.
Yeah. And there's times where I will have like a line of dialogue that I think in my head, like just through the course of a day, and I'm not sure what character will say it, but I'll write it down in a note somewhere, like this is going to come somewhere because it feels like either this character or that character, and yeah, definitely.
Well, lots of questions from the site today. Look at Dave bringing out the questions. So
Carl's not trolling me yet.
I like Jay Chastain's question, so I'll ask that. He says, I've heard Dave talk a lot about his love for Clive Barker. How has Clive influenced him the most in his own writing? Also, when's Dave's, I don't know, what does that say?
Magica.
Magica-inspired epic coming out. Okay, so, but Clive Barker, more on that would be
good. Okay, first of all, Clive Barker, his first inspiration was actually to prevent me from writing.
Yeah.
When I read, I can't remember if it was The Great and Secret Show or Magica, but when I read one of those two books, there was a period of about 5 to 6 months afterwards where I thought I can never write anything as good as this, so I may as well not even try. And I wasn't going to write. Like I was just like, fuck this. This is just too awesome. And this guy's like, here's me and here's him, and it's like an ocean apart. But I think the biggest way, I don't think my writing is inspired by Clive Barker, like stylistically at all, or maybe even thematically. Not really. I would say I don't know what our writing's most like. I know we get a lot of our readers think that we're more like Stephen King or Dean R. Koontz, and that's cool because I read those a lot growing up. But I think Clive Barker inspired me in another way, completely outside of writing, and that was when I was a teenager. There was, I won't say I was homophobic, but I was definitely like people would use the word fag against you, and they'd call me fag. I had long by any means. I wasn't into cars or workshop or athletic shit at all. I was a fat, long-haired guy that read a lot. So obviously I was gay.
Do the math.
Yeah, exactly. But I think when people bully you with that sort of thing, and you sort of internalize it, and in a way, like when I actually finally did see real gay people, I was like, oh, those fags. I was kind of disgusted by it. I didn't understand it. And it wasn't until I read, Clive Barker, and it was Sacrament, I believe, where he actually, I think he was in the closet. At least it wasn't well known that he was gay at the time. And I read Sacrament, and I read in Magica, there's actually a little bit of gender mixing in that book. And when I read these things, something shifted in me where I was no longer, I finally understood how other people, like how people of the same sex could love one another. I understood the whatever distaste I had for it, whatever negativity was associated with the word fag or gay or queer or any of those things, dropped immediately. Like I felt like someone fucking turned the light on. Hey, ignorant asshole, love is love. There's no hate involved, and that was like a revelation for me, because to feel that other way was very limiting, and to actually accept something, I felt like I don't know, I really appreciate that he opened my mind in that way, and I think that's an awesome fucking thing. And
Yeah,
if I had not ever read Sacrament, didn't know that he was gay, I don't know how long I would have been like a little bit bigoted. And later on, I would come to have gay friends, and I would learn of their struggle, and it really helped me to, I don't know, identify with them, and just feel their pain in a way that I never would have felt, might not have ever done, had I not read Sacrament or understood like that love is love.
That's interesting.
That's awesome. That's true inspiration there. Right? That's really.
Yeah. And there's so much from Clive that you can draw from. When I was in film school, the one thing that my friends and we would watch Hellraiser all the time, and the one thing that really kind of drove me through film school was the idea of Clive Barker as a young man, having written all these short stories, the Books of Blood, and going into film. And even he, at the time, he didn't know what he was doing, and he was in such a panic doing it. It was one of the worst experiences of his life doing this first film. And it got to the point where he got drunk one night, took all the film canisters, and started drawing sketches on the film. So, ruining the film, just all of this millions of dollars of film that they've been spent filming this movie, and he's just drawing on the frames. And so there are parts of Hellraiser that have these little bits of his doodles in still frames, still to this day, because they can't fix it. But even then, after he had completely trashed his own film, he got up the next day, was like, you know what, we got to make a fucking movie.
They're redoing Hellraiser right now. So
yeah, and I am excited. Bring me all that pain and pleasure.
When I was younger, actually, I saw Hellraiser before I'd read his books, and I didn't like Hellraiser when I first saw it. It just didn't click for me. I don't know why.
No, it wasn't until I started reading his stuff that I really embraced it. Then I wasn't just like, okay, so he's not all just dominatrix horror stuff.
Yeah, when I was a little bit younger, I had friends that read the Books of Blood, and they were like, yeah, this is fucking awesome. But they weren't. I didn't exactly consider them to truly have the same taste I have, and to me it seemed like Books of Blood was just gore and stupid shit, and I was being rather close-minded about it. And then when I actually read it, I was like, whoa, I was fucking wrong.
Yeah, he weaves a lot into the gore and bloody elements, and I think that's the task of an author, to deliver those unexpected things. If you're reading a fantasy horror novel, like you said, Dave, the last thing that you would really expect is to come out unbigoted.
Yes.
That's awesome. I thought there was another question on the site. Xavier, I lost it down this. You got it?
Depends on which one. I got a couple from Michelle here. I can read.
Oh yeah, let's get Michelle in.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait. She found a computer in my basement.
Yeah,
she did.
Yeah, she managed to find. I think it was just a small iPad.
Hold on, I gotta shut the power off.
It's got a dying battery and a cracked screen. So she's asking. So she wants to hear you talk about why people like to be scared in horror fiction and sci-fi and all that stuff, and how do you go about translating that feeling of fear onto the page?
As to why people like to be, I think different people might like it for different reasons. I think for some people it's a cathartic thing. It allows us to face our fears, or maybe even not our own fears, but another fear, instead of a realistic, more pressing one. Like let's say if you think about something like nuclear war, that's a pretty goddamn scary thing. And when the threat of it was very, very real, sci-fi authors would write about things similar, but just a little bit different, and people could kind of filter it a little bit differently. I think if you think about like real horrible things that happen in people's lives, I think it provides sort of an escape and a way to process something that you really couldn't process in your own life in the same way. It's sort of like a safe way to kind of approach a subject and deal with it. Maybe I think we need to deal with certain pains in our life, certain fears, certain I don't know, just certain things are just darknesses that we have, like just like horrible things that may have happened to us in the past, horrible things that we fear may happen or happen to someone we love. I think horror fiction allows you to sort of just deal with it in a different way. It's almost like psychological counseling. I don't know. That's my take on it. Other people might approach it different ways.
That's cool. I can get behind that.
Oh, the second part of the question, how to put the fear into the page. I all I can say is how I think that like I delve into our characters when we're writing them, and I like to think that they're relatable enough that if I can fear something and maybe put a little bit of that into the book, that the character feels it, then the person reading it will also feel it.
Yeah, I was just going to say White Space in particular I find is a really good example of that in the way that you guys craft that overall arc. Is very character-centric, and because a lot of them have to do with families in this one small town, you're building off of the relationships that all these people have with each other, and that in itself can be just as frightening when the tables are shifted and suddenly alliances are not as they seem. That in itself can be just as frightening as an alien ship just coming in.
Yeah, I think a lot of times I love horror, but at the same time I hate a lot of horror that I see out there, and I think the things that turn me off are like just over the top, bloody, gory things like. Not to use the Saw movies because those were a little bit more clever, but other movies that are just like brutal, just hit you over the head with a hammer, sort of obvious things that really don't take characters into any. They don't represent realistic characters. They just put people on a stage and hey, watch us kill them, and there's really no involvement, no interaction. You don't really care for the characters. One of the best horror movies in recent memory was I think The Descent. The Descent was, I don't remember if they were Australian, UK, but it was a group of women that were friends, and they were going spelunking, cave exploring, and it's a very basic premise. They go exploring a cave, and they run into like creepy monsters down there, or mutants or whatever. And it's so basic. Like, you've seen this movie 100 other times, and every time you saw it, it just sucked. It was just like, oh, this is a B movie. This fucking sucks. But The Descent did not suck, because it involved you in the characters. Like, the first half of the movie was characters, building the characters, getting you to care about them. And there was some mystery. There was mystery as to what happened between these characters, why some of them didn't quite get along, what the fuck was going on. And that mystery paid off in the second half of the movie in a way that could never be done if this was just a B movie where they just threw people on the stage to fucking kill them. I think character is everything in a horror story if you do it well.
Would you say almost all your writing is character-driven, Dave?
Yes.
Now, how do you get...
I don't know if it's all well done, but we try.
Well,
yes, we think character first. Yes.
Okay. So now, how do you? I don't know maybe what to share this, but how do you get in touch with the dark side? How do you get into those characters' heads?
I visit the people in my basement. I say, "What do you fear?" Good, let me have that. No, it's I don't know. I've always been a very I think sympathetic and empathetic sort of person. Like, I pick up on other people's thoughts, and like everyone I've ever known that I've been close to, it's gonna sound weird coming from me because I hate people, but when I get to know somebody, I truly get to know them, and they pretty much tell me everything. And I think in this, I've had a lot of different friends and a lot of different walks of life, and they've all like shared these things with me. I don't use these things for my stories, but it allows me to sort of see other people, like kind of live in their shoes and feel the things they feel, and like that I wouldn't, I think somebody that was more sheltered or closed off wouldn't really know how other people are. They kind of see everything through their own filter, and I think that I see things a little differently than a lot of people. Not saying I'm above other people, but just the way my life has kind of turned out, that I see things from all these different perspectives. At times it's difficult, especially in real life. Like if I'm in a conflict with somebody, I see like every fucking side to it. It's very hard to make a decision. But I think when it comes to books, it's kind of helped me a lot, because I do see every single side, and it allows me to find the pieces that would kind of clash together or not work out, and really exploit them for the story.
Empathy. Very good. Yeah.
I could have just said empathy and left it at that.
Oh, I like that. That was a good explanation. That really definitely deeper into the psyche of Dave, which is
I'm
good.
a sensitive soul.
That's right. I always knew that about you. People always saying, no, I'm thinking, no, Dave's a big softy deep down. So.
And up front, that soft fat belly.
I can relate to that too. So there you go. So
Carl was just saying that Dave reads Unicorn Western whenever he wants to go to his dark place.
I read redacted.
I think we got two real questions still.
Real questions? What? The...
Yeah, as opposed to trolling or just Carl being Carl.
I love Carl, man.
We all love Carl.
Everyone loves Carl. He makes this show.
Carl and I are so much alike. It's scary. He's like my twin in Australia. If we lived near each other, I don't know if that'd be good or bad.
Oh, it'd probably be bad.
But yeah, I get pretty much.
It would be good because we'd hang out with each other and we'd go to restaurants and like just totally fucking piss off everybody in the world.
Yeah,
we'd probably get no writing done whatsoever.
And pretty soon they wouldn't let you in restaurants anyway.
And our wives would hate us.
And then like the apocalypse would come, and then you'd have to deal with that, and
Well, if the apocalypse comes, I want Carl by my side.
Yeah, that's.
I don't want him behind me. I don't trust that motherfucker. I kid. I do trust Carl. Anyway, where we got a serious question?
Yeah. So Kate Morgan was asking, so how much of the drafting responsibilities go between you and Shawn at this point? Is he primarily more pre and post development, whereas you're more the drafting stage, or I know I tend to be a little bit more back and forth per project with you guys, but how has that changed at all with how you're doing things now?
Yesterday's Gone first season, Shawn and I pretty much wrote our halves individual of one another, and I think it kind of shows in some ways. Season 2 on, I took a little bit more of a role. I didn't do it all though, and then he would edit. But it's all planned out by both of us. Some books more than others. I think White Space, it was pretty equal between the two of us. I don't think that I took over more. Maybe in White Space season 2 I may have. Yeah, it really depends. Like Crash was pretty much just me digging into my dark place, and then Shawn edited and tried to make it a little more palatable. So yeah, it really varies, but I think Shawn is instrumental in the creation process. Even if he didn't have as much of a hand in the first draft, just because together I think we just come up with things that are so much better than I would alone. It really is, the story meetings are like fucking magic for me. I love the discussion. I love that Shawn brings me to a place I wouldn't be on my own. Like if I was gonna write, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a story. Like 12 was a story I've had in my head for a long time. And if I wrote it completely on my own, I think it would be a little bit different than what it is now with Shawn. How we came together and just come up with these really awesome things. But it does vary project to project, and most of it is actually determined on whether, like how quickly we can get it done in a good way. Like sometimes we'd each write half, but then if I didn't like what Shawn wrote, I would completely fucking overwrite it because I'm an asshole that way. Because I do pay. I think I'm a little more in touch with the what do you call it, the timelines and all that stuff. And there's some things that I understand that Shawn doesn't always with the book, simply because he's involved in like so many fucking projects. I don't know how he can possibly do it all. I mean, the beam alone is just impossible to just fathom. So I'm kind of like the story runner on a lot of our stuff, and he and Johnny, do the things that they do together. And it's amazing that Shawn's able to do the shit he does, because it's fucking incredible. So
maybe it's, well, I was like maybe he's on speed or something, but
no, he's such a genuine. He is the most genuine person I've ever known. Like I've never known anybody so completely honest and what they are as Shawn is, except maybe my father. Like Shawn is like the most trustworthy person I've ever known in my entire life, outside of my father and perhaps my wife. Well, yes, my wife, obviously.
We'll edit out the perhaps for you.
Yeah, but he's fucking awesome. So.
I hope he gets to see this, because you're talking a lot of praise for him. So
yeah, exactly.
Fuck that dick, man. Hold me back.
Yeah, you have to make sure that when you talk to him next, you just assault him on having a big nose for a good 15 minutes.
That'll be the first 15 minutes of SPP tomorrow.
Yeah, just to make sure that you've gotten your amount of insults out that are equal to the amount of praise that you've just given him.
I'm gonna give him one more bit of praise. And this isn't public at all, and I probably shouldn't even say it. But this is the one. Okay, this is the one thing. Like, there's people that that they have your back. There's some people that say they have your back, and then there's people have your fucking back. And when we were at that point where we were, getting real work, Shawn was offered work by somebody that is fucking huge, and he basically, all he had to do was say yes, and it would just turn on the fucking money faucet. That's all it was, and it was legit stuff. It wasn't it wasn't fucking info marketing like crazy shit like that. It was legit stuff, and all he had to do was say yes. But the one thing, this person had a slight issue with me, because I am rather vocal in the way I am, cynical ass self. And this person basically told Shawn, like, you can go forward, or you can hang on to Dave. Basically, like, Dave's a fucking anchor holding you back. And Shawn's like, fuck it, I'm doing my thing with Dave. he turned away from the money and did the fucking thing with me. And for anybody to turn down that much money, I don't know anybody that would, first of all, but for somebody to do that for me and for a chance that our stories might sell is just fucking incredible. So I got Shawn's back no matter what.
Wow.
Yeah.
This has been very insightful tonight. I wasn't expecting this deep from Dave. I was really thinking more.
Everyone's like turning it off, like, fuck this, man. I came in for dick jokes. And Ayahuasca Joe.
I don't know. I'm picturing there's got to be someone who's been waiting to get to the deeper psyche of Dave, and now they're watching this just going, finally.
No, they're like, oh, why?
Oh, I peeled back the onion, and it's just another layer of onion.
Sadness. Yeah, right?
God damn it. I thought there was cake inside, but it was a lie.
No. Yeah, the cake is a lie.
Okay.
Maybe, Dave, Carl was just mentioning your upcoming book 12. Do you want to quickly talk about that? Because I heard that there's some interesting thing going along with how you're doing the release for that.
It's a happy story.
Okay.
12 is a story I thought of years ago when I was working graveyard shifts at a gas station, and I read like 3-4 newspapers a night, and there were all these like mass shootings, like just they happen a lot. I don't know if you noticed, but they kind of happen a lot.
Yeah.
And,
even if they don't happen, they happen a lot.
Yeah. So, and back then, it's just before 24-hour cable news and stuff, and it may have changed a bit more now, but back then they didn't really talk about the victims so much. They talked about the shooter. The shooter was the star of the show, and the victims were like, they're fucking footnotes in history. And as a former reporter, I can kind of understand this because some victims don't want to be known. They don't, their families don't want, they don't want their lives aired out for all these people to see. Others, they kind of, they're put off by this. Like, why is the fucking shooter the star? My daughter, my son, they fucking mattered. But no, they don't. I mean, it's all about the shooter. So I thought about this a lot, and I tried to imagine the lives of people, on their last day. Like, they went to work and there was a fucking shooting and they didn't come home, and it's just horrible. So obviously I obsessed on it. And 12 starts off basically with, there's a shooting that takes place at a diner, and the story begins, it's like right after 6 p.m., and then you don't know, all you know is there's a shooting and there's bodies, and you don't know anything other than that. Then immediately rewinds 12 hours, and then you start experiencing the story through the lives of 12 different people over the course of 12 hours. And it's a mystery as to, who lives, who dies, who pulled the trigger, and stuff like that. It's kind of a deep book, not a horror book, not supernatural at all, sort of a mystery thriller. The interesting thing we're doing with that is we're actually going to do a podcast with it first. And I don't know how much I can say about that at the moment. So watch SPP. So there's some details. I'm not really sure what I can say because we're partnering with somebody, and it's very interesting. But it will be a podcast, and then it will be a book. So, and it will be, I believe, a daily podcast. So
that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Is it? I obviously don't, not to give away too much thing, but the podcast will be some sort of promo tool, maybe in the podcast style, like little kind of episodic things to kind of prep people to get, build anticipation for the book release, kind of a thing.
No, the podcast will be it's completely free. I mean, you want to experience it just as it's not a funnel. It's the book.
It'll be a separate thing. Okay, great.
Yeah, and if you want the podcast, you get the podcast. If you want to read the book, and the book will be out after the podcast. So it's not even like, hey, if you want to know the ending of the book right now, go buy it. It's not even that. You actually got to wait for the podcast to be done, I think, before the book comes out.
That's wow.
I might try to get the book out a little earlier just because I want it out there, but I'm not sure yet. But it'll probably be after the podcast.
Yeah, maybe do the paperback first.
We're gonna do a stone tablet first. We're really going retro on this.
Yeah.
If you want the ebook, you gotta wait like a year.
Yeah. We're paying very skilled, just like old men from a masonry, and we have to ship it down from the rocks. It's really time consuming.
And then we're getting an actor to portray Moses and bringing them down from the mountaintop. It's gonna be a beautiful thing.
It's Charlton Heston. He's reprising his role.
Oh yeah.
So that will be on Sterling Stone, though. That where they can find that.
Yeah, we'll talk about it when it's closer to launch. Probably be a couple months from now. I'm not exactly sure the timeline, but
okay.
Yeah, you won't be able to miss it. We'll be going on and on.
Like per usual. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, we burned an hour already, but I got one more question at least, and maybe Xavier, you can scan too if there's anything else or anything else you want to tie up. This has been really cool talking to you, Dave. But
I'm not used to not seeing the questions, but I want to pay attention to you guys, so I'm not reading the questions.
Oh, okay.
So
I was just thinking about this. So you say 2008. Here it is, 2015. I mean, 7 years into anything, whatever career, usually is when you start to really, feel comfortable, and it's like, so do a little projection for me. Where do you see this going? How do you see the industry changing? What are your insights to what's around the corner, if you got any, and what you hope to happen or something like that?
I don't know how it'll change. I mean, ebooks, they took off in a big way. That if it'll go somewhere after that, I don't know, and I hope it's not too quick that it does, because I kind of enjoy having a platform. I mean, I know there's people like putting out multimedia ebooks and stuff like that, and I suppose there's an audience for that. To me, the labor's a bit intense, and a lot of the places that kind of offer it, a less labor-intensive version of it is really sort of an inferior product. Like, why would I even bother? I'd rather just read it. I mean, obviously, I don't know all the ones that are out there. There might be some great ones. I think ebooks will continue to do well. I think Google Play and devices that are on Google, I think they'll start to be more of a percentage of the market. Just it's like I don't see Google not doing it right. They're taking a while, but I think they will do it right. I don't know after that. It's really tough to say. I mean, books have been around forever. I mean, what innovation will there be to directly pipe it into your head? I have no idea. On my personal plan, we're gonna go TV eventually. We're gonna write for TV at some point. Maybe movies. I don't know, but I prefer TV. That's our goal.
So you're actively pursuing that?
We have a few people that I can't say too much, but it can happen. It's just a matter of the right deal and the right time, and not taking the first deal.
Yes.
So we have open doors and some pretty big ones. But I'm a very pessimistic, cynical person, and I don't like to count my eggs before they hatch. So I don't like to say too much about it. But I do feel that at some point we will be writing for television, or at least sell our stuff to television, if not actively writing on television. I don't know if someday I'll be a showrunner. That'd be pretty fucking awesome. That would be my goal. I don't know. We'll see. But that is the goal. I mean, that's why we wrote White Space. That's a book made for TV.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. When I first started reading, I was like, this should be a television show. So, if you had that in mind before you started writing it, kudos, because you did it right.
It definitely reads that way.
It does. Yeah, I totally like. Man, this is a fucking show, and I'd watch the show too.
Yeah, and that's why I'm still pissed off that season 3 is not out yet.
Well, I didn't want to mention that tonight. I was trying to make it not too bitchy.
I think
I want the juicy details.
A lot of our readers, they found us through Yesterday's Gone, so obviously that's a big thing that they love, and a lot of times we hear from people like, I can't wait to see Yesterday's Gone as a TV show. I think that the vocal minority screaming for White Space is a lot smaller, but it is, it is a show more. I mean, if you did Yesterday's Gone for TV, it would be, you may as well do Game of Thrones. I mean, it would be, by necessity, have to be a huge budget and fucking impossible, probably. Unless we became like huge, I don't know. But White Space is, engineered from it's a character-driven story, and the budget is very doable on TV. It's not that far out there, so I think it's perfect for TV. So.
Yeah, having read Yesterday's Gone and White Space, and having worked in film, the obvious one would be for White Space. With Yesterday's Gone, you would have that would be a real commitment for a film studio to go with something like that.
Yeah, and we're not big enough. We're not there. We're not Hugh Howey. We're not like, oh, get that shit on HBO right now from those practically unknown authors. But something like White Space, more realistic shot.
That's great. Is there any other kind of I know you're always doing drawing and doing the little comics from back in the day. Is there any more chance that we're going to be seeing a Dave Wright cartoon anthology release sometime?
No, I'm not looking to release my older stuff just now. I think
Oh no, I mean anything new, like as far as what you might be putting out that could be more along the lines of cartoons or comics book style, something aside from print.
I'm doing a comic strip for a dog food company, actually, TrueDog.com. I'm doing a weekly comic strip about a cat and a dog. Very family friendly. It's a cute comic, and I think a lot of people, that like animals and stuff, they'd like it. It's not like darkly humorous comic that I was doing with a few of my other things. I kind of have like two sides to me. Like there's the family friendly side that I consider this like I did Todd and Penguin for a long time, and that's a very cute, sweet, innocent comic, kind of like not Calvin and Hobbes, but like that sort of feeling with it. And I like that. I think that's legit. But for comics, I also have like a darker side, more like Bloom County, more very laser attack sort of sarcastic, dark thing. And I would like to do that again someday too. But that's the thing. Like I could spend each comic I do takes 3 to 4 hours, and the investment in time is the money is just not there for me to do that. And if I'm going to do something, I have to do the thing that pays the bills. But I do want to get back to it someday.
So that way life can be all darkness and rainbows.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, I want to say thank you very much. It was a very interesting conversation tonight. And if you wouldn't object to it, maybe sometime in the future, maybe when 12 comes out or something, have you back on. Maybe can we get Shawn to stay up this late? Probably not, huh?
Probably not. He's got to be up bright and early. If you did a show earlier, he might come on. So.
Okay. Well, anyway.
Thank you, though. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Just throw out a little promo for next week. Aaron Sykes is going to be on the show next week, editor Aaron Sykes, back by popular demand, talking about some editing things, and also be looking for a blog post from him here tomorrow or the next day. Hopefully I'll get up tomorrow. He's done with it. So that's on next week's show. Xavier, don't forget, you do it. I don't do it. I don't do ad reads like Dave, and I don't do.
This episode of the Self-Publishing Roundtable was brought to you by hate, despair, and loneliness. Don't forget loneliness.
You got the Burry voice for that. That's awesome. Short story contest.
Short story contest. We are indeed having a short story contest. If you want to have a free cover design and Brian Conan's 1,000 creative writing prompts for free, just submit your free short story to theideapool@gmail.com by March 31st for that free cover design and free book from Brian Cohen.
And the pornier the better, right?
Yes.
Make sure it's dripping with porn.
Well, Michelle's going to judge all the erotica, so we're good with that. So. Yes,
we're going to get the Christian girl from Oklahoma to judge all the erotica, so we are good.
Good. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching us live, and please give us a thumbs up. All those in the social media shares help. And if you want into the after party, put your name in at the top of the list over on the website, and either I or Xavier Well, I actually didn't even ask Dave. Dave, you want to do the after party?
I'll do it for a little bit.
Okay. I was just assuming, Dave has nothing to do. Just talk all night.
All right. Wow.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Internet.